So we have 12 examples that we're going to be looking at, and we're going to determine if the two triangles are congruent or not. Is the information that's given us enough to justify triangle congruency? So it says determine which triangle congruency statement can be used to prove that the triangles are congruent. If it is not possible to prove, then write not possible. So what about this first triangle, the first two triangles here? So notice in our picture how we have an angle and a side that is marked. Well, again, if you remember, you have to have three facts. So do I have a third fact? Well, if I look in this picture, I do have enough information to state that this angle is congruent to this angle. Well, if you remember back to last week, why are these two angles congruent? Well, we have vertical angles, and we know that vertical angles are always congruent. So, is that enough information to justify that these two triangles are congruent? And the answer is yes. These two triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. A, S, A. How do you know that it's ASA and not anything else? Well, again, pick a place to start. Always start with like an edge. And so I'm going to go to an angle. Then next I'm going to go to the included side followed by the angle. So these two triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. So what about in number 2? So in number 2, notice how I have an angle, a side, followed by a side. Okay, again, if I go the other direction, a side, and an angle. Well, over here, an angle, a side, well, if you remember, we are not allowed, we've accidentally spelled a bad word, we're not allowed to have that. So, are these two angles congruent? The answer is no. They are not congruent to each other. There is not enough information to justify if these two triangles are congruent. So this one is not possible. What about in number 3? Well, number 3, notice how I have 3 sides marked, matched to 3 sides on the other side. So side, side, side is one of our justifications. So yes, these two triangles are congruent by side, side, side congruency. And then in example 4, so right now the only thing I have marked is 2 angles. So I have to have 3 facts. So sometimes I have to draw further conclusions based off of my picture. Well, if you remember back to last week's lessons, notice how these 2 triangles share a common side. So what happens when 2 triangles share a common side? What is that called? That is your reflexive property. So, yes, we do have enough information. These 2 triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle congruency.